Human beings are a connecting link between resources and development. It is only due to human beings that most of the resources are harnessed and utilized. Human resource is treated as the pivotal factor capable of determining the extent of growth achieved by any country or region. Thus, resource development is closely associated with human development. In order to enhance the quality of human resource, good education and training for skill development are of vital significance, apart from food, clothing and shelter. In India, the Human Resource Development (HRD) Ministry has been specifically set up to ensure that our population receives the right education, skills, proper food, and good health care to equip it for various developmental activities. Japan's development after World War II is a striking example of how human resource, skill and technology can work wonders in a land where few resources are present. The US has lower density of population than many countries. However, with excellent skills and knowledge, it has provided the stimulus to development. On the other hand, the dense population with fewer skills and expertise in many parts of Asia and Africa are still moving slowly, albeit steadily, on a path that will surely lead to development. The world's population is unevenly distributed. North and South America, that account for almost 25% of the land surface, have barely 12% of the world's population. Asia, on the other hand, occupies about 17% of the land surface area, but supports more than 50% of the world's population. Europe has a small area, but a considerable percentage, about 10%, of the world's total population. In spite of a larger area, Africa has just 12% of the global population. See the world map and you will notice that within the continents, the distribution of population is extremely uneven. Areas which are ice-bound, arid, or mountainous have few people compared to the plains and river valleys that have the greatest concentration of population. Many vast expanses of desert and ice caps are virtually uninhabited, while parts of the Gangetic Plains is densely populated. The distribution of population is best understood not just in terms of the numbers living in a country, but in terms of the numbers living in a unit area, that is, the density of population. While the density of population for the world is about 45 people per square kilometer, it rises to as much as 9,294 people per square kilometer in Delhi, over 600 people per square kilometer in parts of eastern, the US, and less than 1 per square kilometer in the Sahara Desert or the Canadian tundra region. Density of population is equal to total population upon total area in square kilometer is equal to people per square kilometer. Let us understand how distribution and density of population are determined by physical factors and non-physical factors like socio-economic conditions and cultural factors. Relief. Flat or undulating land in the plains and river valleys have always been the most favored places for human habitation. This explains why the earliest civilizations flourished in river valleys. People prefer such locations because they are usually better suited to agriculture and other economic activities. They allow for better connectivity as it is easy to develop transport and communication facilities here. Plains are appropriate for expansion and settlement. Water supply from rivers is abundant for all types of works. These areas usually have a better climate suited to development and growth of human population. In highlands and deserts, on the other hand, the difficulties of terrain, cold climate, lack of facilities, and non-availability of resources do not allow any significant economic activity. Poor transport system and connectivity also pose a big problem. Soil. Fertile soils, example alluvial, are suitable for large-scale farming. So, river plains tend to have larger population than areas with poor, sandy soils. Climate. A favorable climate with warm summers and cool winters and an equitable amount of rainfall allows for a wide range of economic activities. Such areas in the tropical, subtropical and even in the warm temperate latitudes favor the growth of population. Fewer people choose to inhabit areas that are too hot, as in equatorial areas, or too cold, as in the cold temperate and polar regions. Even regions that have very low rainfall, like deserts, are not preferred for habitation. Despite modern advances in technology, these areas are unlikely to show major population changes. Resources. The presence of natural resources such as forests, minerals, marine organisms, etc. is an indicator that the region can support some economic activity and so a larger population. Lack of resources is linked to a lack of economic activity, and where there is no means of earning a living, population tends to be low. Industrial activity. Most industrial centers create opportunity for employment. Labor is attracted to such centers which have a good infrastructure and so exert a pull on population. On the other hand, areas where there is little scope for job opportunities exert a push whereby locals move out to areas with better prospects. Urbanization. People are always drawn to urban areas where facilities for living are better and more avenues are open for employment. Most rural areas provide fewer opportunities for growth. Socio-cultural factors. Cultural centers. Many towns grow up and attract people to them because of the cultural opportunities they provide. Educational centers such as Oxford, Cambridge and Shantiniketan are some examples. Government policy. This can influence the movement of people and their concentration in certain areas. An unfavorable government policy will not attract population. Religious centers. Mecca, Jerusalem, Varanasi, Mathura and Rome are all centers that attract people of different religions. These have developed as commercial centers because they provide services that fulfill the needs of tourists. So, population tends to be higher here. Based on the density of population, we can describe different areas of the world as densely populated areas with several hundred people per square kilometer. Southern and Eastern Asia, Western Europe, Eastern and parts of Central North America and all urban centers in the world are densely populated. Moderately populated areas with 25 to 125 people per square kilometer. Large portions of the tropical and temperate grassland regions in North America, South America, Central Europe, Central Asia, as well as high plateau areas and some coastal regions are moderately populated. Sparsely populated areas with 5 to 25 people per square kilometer. Mountainous tracts like the Himalayas, Rockies, Andes, desert areas like the Sahara, Thar, Kalahari, Mexican, the tundra regions, Antarctica, and the equatorial regions like the Congo and Amazon basins are generally sparsely populated. Another important aspect of human resource, besides its distribution, it is composition. A study of the composition of population includes a study of the age structure, sex composition, rural-urban segments, occupational structure, literacy levels, as well as language, religion, and races or ethnicity. The age structure explains the percentage of a country's population in different age groups. A study of the age structure gives a direction to planning and development work in human resources. Normally, an age pyramid shows the segment of population in the age groups 0 to 4, 5 to 9, and so on till 75 plus. while the numbers of males and females are shown on the horizontal axis. The age groups are depicted on the vertical axis. We can call the age group 0 to 14 as young or dependent, 15 to 64 as the adult or working age group, and 65 plus as the older age group, which may again include dependent. In a country where the age group pyramid has a broad base that narrows upwards, we can see that the highest number of people is in the younger age group. A high birth rate and a low infant mortality rate contribute to this. The younger age group is non-productive and comprises a large dependent population. This age structure is typical of developing economies like India and Bangladesh. Most African, some Asian, and many Latin American countries also have this type of age structure. In a developed economy, the younger age group is not larger than the working segment. This points to the fact that the birth rates are controlled. So, there is more proportion between the working and dependent population. The UK, the US, Canada, Japan and most European countries have this kind of an age structure. In most developed economies, we also see a large old age segment than in developing countries. This is because of better health care and medical facilities in the developed countries, and so old people live longer. In the developing countries, the life expectancy is low because of poor medical and health care facilities and lack of proper nourishment. So, fewer people are found in the older age group. When the working age group segment is larger than the other two, it means more people to sustain and provide for the other groups. This group also contributes to a country's economic development and is usually larger in developed countries. Sex composition. Sex composition refers to the male-female ratio or percentage of males to females in the total population. It is calculated as the sex ratio, which is the number of females per 1,000 males. Understanding the sex ratio is important as it allows forecasts of future population, trends, and therefore planning for the future population development. Ratios of 1,000 means that males and females are equal in number. If it is over 1,000, it implies more females than males. A favorable sex ratio. It is an unfavorable sex ratio when there are less females per 1,000 males. On the other hand, a more educated and developed society that considers there to be no difference between males and females will have a more favorable sex ratio. Sex composition. Sex composition refers to the male-female ratio or percentage of males to females in the total population. It is calculated as the sex ratio, which is the number of females per 1,000 males. Understanding the sex ratio is important as it allows forecasts of future population, trends, and therefore planning for the future population development. Ratios of 1,000 means that males and females are equal in number. If it is over 1,000, it implies more females than males. A favorable sex ratio. It is an unfavorable sex ratio when there are less females per 1,000 males. On the other hand, a more educated and developed society that considers there to be no difference between males and females will have a more favorable sex ratio. Occupational structure. Occupational structure gives an idea of the number of people within the total population engaged in different activities to earn a livelihood. Primary activities, which include agriculture, animal rearing, forestry, fishing and mining. Secondary activities like manufacturing and processing. Tertiary activities, which include services, transport and communication, and trade. The more developed a country is, the greater is the percentage of population in the secondary and tertiary sectors. A greater percentage of people engaged in primary activities points to a developing economy. The rural and urban segments of the population are also important in planning development, while 48% of the world population was living in towns and cities in 2004. India had 72.18% still living in rural areas. The population in the world has been growing at varying rates since the human first appeared on Earth. While man was dependent on hunting and food gathering for his food, the population grew at a very slow rate. With the Neolithic agricultural revolution, world population began to increase because of an assured food supply. Then expansion of trade set the stage for a more rapid population growth, and in 1650, it is believed to have touched about 550 million. With the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, we see the most remarkable increase in population as the resource base expanded and scientific and technological advancements improved the quality of life. Between 750 and 1900, world population nearly doubled from 700 million to 1.7 billion. In the 1960s, the remarkable advances in medical sciences had a profound influence in reducing the death rate, and expectancy all over the world increased. Though death rates declined considerably, the birth rates, especially in Asia and some countries in Africa, continued to rise. So the greatest growth of population has been in the developing countries and continues to be so. In the developed Western countries, on the other hand, the natural growth rate of population has decreased considerably, as along with death rates, the birth rates have also fallen. In 2000, world population hit 6 billion, and once again the largest increases were in the Asian, Latin American and some African nations. The fast growth rate of population here has been a cause for concern, as it is putting immense strain on the existing resources, especially land, soil and power. Developed countries responded quickly to control growth rates. They are now 0.1% a year for most Western countries. It is now up to the developing countries to check their rapid growth of population. A lot needs to be done to check birth rates. Today, the growth rate for the world stands at 1.3%, and it is hoped a decline in the growth rate will continue. Resource development cannot keep pace with population growth in developing nations. This leads to problems like shortages of food supply, inadequate power supply, low standards of living, housing and water problems, slums and healthcare problems. The problem is serious and must be dealt with by placing effective checks on the rate of population growth. India, with a total population of 1,210,193,422, 2011, also presents a very unequal distribution of its people. Uttar Pradesh has the largest population, 199.6 million, followed by Maharashtra, 112.4 million, Bihar, 103.8 million, West Bengal, 91.34 million, and Andhra Pradesh, 84.66 million. These 5 states alone account for about half the country's population. Though Rajasthan is the largest state, it contains only 5.5% of the total population. Likewise with Madhya Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. India's population density of 324 people per square kilometer in 2001 places it among the most densely populated countries in the world. However, the density of population varies from region to region. The map 9.2 describes the density of population in the country. India, with a total population of 1,210,193,422, 2011, also presents a very unequal distribution of its people. Uttar Pradesh has the largest population, 199.6 million, followed by Maharashtra, 112.4 million, Bihar, 103.8 million, West Bengal, 91.34 million, and Andhra Pradesh, 84.66 million. These 5 states alone account for about half the country's population. Though Rajasthan is the largest state, it contains only 5.5% of the total population. Likewise with Madhya Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. India's population density of 324 people per square kilometer in 2001 places it among the most densely populated countries in the world. However, the density of population varies from region to region. The map 9.2 describes the density of population in the country. India has an adverse sex ratio of 933, which is related to the preference for the male child and neglect of girls and women. In urban areas, one cause of this could be the in-migration of male workers. In India, literacy levels are low and particularly so among females. Rural areas too have very low literacy rates compared to urban areas. Kerala has achieved nearly 100% literacy. Steps are being taken to make primary education compulsory all over the country. Population has undergone changes in India too. Before 1921, which has been referred to as a demographic divide, there was a slow growth of population. This was due to a number of epidemics and war. From a population of 251 million in 1921, there was a steady growth of population to 361 million in 1951. This was due to improved medical facilities and better food supply. As our agricultural production was stepped up, birth rates continued to rise. The Green Revolution accelerated economic growth, and together with better health and medical care, our population doubled between 1951 and 1981 to 683 million. The growth rate was 2.2% per annum. Since 1981, though the population has been increasing, the rate of growth has declined to 1.93% per annum in 2001. With over a billion people, the birth rate in India today is 25, while the death rate is 8. This is due to efforts being made to reduce the birth rate.